reason we're not to. Let's go.
You're listening to the DSM Podcast Network powered by Learfield. Talking Drake Athletics, the 515 podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
Hey, welcome in. It is a 515 podcast on the Drake Sports Media Podcast Network. We are powered up by Learfield. My name is Michael Admire. It's a special Ask the AD episode of the 515 podcast. And thanks for everyone for joining in here. We are streaming live tonight on the Drake Athletics YouTube and Facebook pages. Drop a comment, drop a question. We'll have some fun here on this Monday evening. Again, my name is Michael Admire. It is the week of December 9th, and we're going to jump in to our headlines right now. All right. One game last week. That's all we had. Drake men's basketball gets a 6-point win at Valparaiso. Bennett Sturts goes for 29 points. What a performance out of him. Up in Northwest Indiana, Drake now one of 8 unbeaten teams in all of college basketball. They remain 7 spots outside the top 25. A fun week upcoming here in Des Moines. It is Holidays at the Nap. It's coming up this Thursday, December 12th. It will feature a women's game against North Dakota beginning at 5 p.m. And then it will follow with a men's basketball nightcap against St. Ambrose. That game starting at 7:30. And Des Moines' hometown team is partnering with Foster Squad of Iowa for a toy drive. So if you bring a toy to support Foster Squad, you get a ticket per toy into both games that night. It's a pretty great deal and a great way to support youth kids in our community. Also, Santa is going to be taking a break from his madness and his busy schedule. He'll be at the Knapp Center taking photos prior to the women's game, at halftime of the women's game, and then in between both of those games. So it was quick headlines this week. We got Ryan Gledhill helping out producing behind the scenes. And I thought you were going to pull yourself up there for a second, but yeah, we can't reveal the secret camera just yet. But today we have the director of Drake Athletics, Brian Hardin, joining us in just a second. We've been taking Ask the AD questions on social media since last week, and we have compiled the best of the best. We're going to get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. But as I mentioned, you can pop on to Facebook or onto YouTube. I'm checking here off camera here, seeing all the comments to see when those start rolling in. We already got a couple comments popping up on Facebook. You can also join us on YouTube as well. We'll try to get to those at some point throughout this conversation. We got Ryan Gledhill keeping an eye on those. This is the first time also that we've done this. So just, bear with us as we get going here on this 515 podcast. Hopefully we won't have any issues, but you know what? We're going to do our best. So it is time now for Ask the AD as we welcome in the director of athletics. His name is Brian Hardin. And Brian, thank you so much for doing this. We might have lost you. So it is, I knew we would be running into some sort of issue. All right, here we're just gonna roll. All right. We're gonna wait for a second. I might just have you come sit in this seat at some point. All right, here. Let me just throw this on.
You want to share a seat?
I think we can hear you. We just may not be able to see you. Which
well, that's actually probably best. I'm sometimes better seen or better heard, not seen. I not exactly don't have a face for HD, so maybe better on the radio side of things.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, you know what we can do, Ryan? We can also pull up the second camera. That's why we have a backup, and now we can see you in the corner. So Ryan, maybe you can continue to work on it. It looks like this camera might be rolling now, so you might be able to test that out. Hey, this is how live TV rolls.
Live podcast.
Live podcast.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Get a little taste for it here.
Well, thanks for everybody for, you're rolling with us here. As soon as I warned everybody that something might go wrong, it went wrong. And if we've learned anything from, he's back. Coach McCollum, in some of the pregame interviews, he, when, talking about trap games or anything like that, he just says, I don't even want to speak it into existence.
That's right.
So that's on me. That's on me. All right. So now that we're rolling, we're looking good on all sides. Producer Ryan, great job back there taking care of us. I just wanted to start. We've got a ton of great questions to get to, but I wanted to start with kind of a state of Drake athletics coming off a 2023-24 all sports championship trophy in the Missouri Valley Conference that had never been done before by Drake. It's a rare feat for a private institution, and Drake does it in this, challenging landscape of the NCAA. And now we're here in the fall and back in first again.
Yeah. Here we are again. The state of our department is strong. I feel good about kind of where athletics is right now. Really, incredibly proud of what happened last year. That was just such a fun year to kind of go through and to accomplish something that had never been done before at Drake. Hadn't happened by a private school in the Valley in 63 years, only the second school to ever do it. I honestly wasn't sure if when I got here 7 years ago and learned about the all sports trophy, if Drake ever could ascend to the top. Just looking at the history, there have only been 4 schools that ever won it since 1977, and they're all public schools. And it's like, gosh, how do we do this? And even like the formula I thought was kind of skewed against some of the private schools. But hey, we had an amazing year. Went from third a couple of years ago, won it last year, and now we exit the fall in first place. And we actually had more points through the fall this year than we did through the fall a year ago. And again, I'll touch on this point. Football is not built into that formula. So football winning the PFL championship does not help us in the Missouri Valley Conference all sports standings. So when you factor in the first place that we're in for the all sports standings right now, based off of a ton of second place and fourth place finishes, and then you add in the football finish, like, holy cow, like it was an awesome fall, and certainly to set the table for what I think will be a really exciting winter.
It's interesting. We had Pat Flynn on, and the soccer program kind of used that as a motivator for this season because they weren't really a part of the championship trophy last year.
Yeah.
And so, it has become a part of the, culture and the talking points here at Drake that, we truly are all in this together, and it is a motivating factor.
Yeah. That goes back. That sentiment was shared with me by football players a year ago.
Yeah.
We were walking down the hallway after we lost a playoff game. I remember talking to a couple of the guys, and they were talking about how they had seen our tennis teams and our basketball teams get to the tournament and how they wanted to be part of that too. We had such great success the previous year when we finished third as a department, that they wanted to add to that. And so that was what they were able to do a year ago. And now that motivated our men's soccer team. And it's just has really kind of snowballed from there. And it's awesome. There's no other way to look at it. It's a great time to be a Drake Bulldog.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time and everybody's time here.
I got nothing else going on these days.
Right.
Spend all the time with you that we can.
We will get to maybe the thing that is keeping you the busiest later on in this podcast. But I do want to jump right into these fan questions. Please. Because as soon as we put out the call for questions, which might be a sign of the times for Drake Athletics, there's a lot of interest, got a flood of messages and questions. And so let's start with one of the first ones that popped up, and one that popped up continuously. Everybody wants to know what's happening on campus when it comes to renovations and expansion. Question is, what remaining updates to the Knapp Center are scheduled? Any previously announced updates that have been put on hold?
Yep. So what do we have left? So if you've been to a game here this fall, hopefully you've seen some of the work done in the atrium in our concourse right there. So through a very generous gift from Mid-American Energy Foundation, we're able to do some work in kind of redo the atrium and concourse area. So that it hadn't been touched in the 30 plus years the Knapp Center has been open. And I'd say right now we're probably about 80% of the way done with the concourse piece. So we now have an ability to, all of our teams are represented in that space. We've added just some graphic pieces to try to lighten it up, and there's a new hometown team mural that I think is a great photo op. We're going to add in some art pieces here over the next couple of months. So excited about that piece. We still need to put in a donor wall. We need to add in some electricity to activate some of the lights that we have that we put into place there. So those pieces I've kind of we're working on finishing up. And then we're going to develop a new Hall of Honor that is going to go into the stairwells there on the southeast and southwest side of the Knapp Center. So essentially, if you recall the old Knapp Center atrium and concourse, you walk in, and up on the wall, like above the concession stand and above the restroom, there were drawings of some of the great athletes and teams in Drake athletics history. We've replaced all that and have just a different look to it. But we still needed to capture, who those athletes and who those teams were. So what we've done is we work with a company out of Kansas City who's done a lot of great work, both with businesses, but also with athletic departments. Dimensional Innovations is their name. They're the ones that designed everything. Now in the stairwells, when you come back to a game, probably after the middle of January, we'll have more of like a museum type feel to it. So we'll have trophy cases in there that will have rotating displays. So I think like some of the initial displays this year, we will celebrate Paul Morrison. It is the Paul Morrison Hall of Honor. And so we'll have some artifacts recognizing him. We'll have something in there celebrating 50 years of women's athletics at Drake. So some artifacts in that space where we'll recognize the Drake relays. We're going to recognize some of the recent accomplishments by our team. So like our all sports trophy will be highlighted in there, some of the other team accomplishments. And then as things pop up along the way, we can put, some other artifacts in there. So for instance, if this had been active, a year or so ago, we could have put the shoes that Brooke Mullins won when she won the Drake relays, and we could do some other kind of fun stuff that kind of update that. So Hope Bibbins, who's our university archivist, has done an amazing job of kind of helping us in this process. And so if you haven't been to a game, get out here. I mean, just look at what's happening on the court right now. But then get here early and kind of walk around. Certainly, as we get into conference play, you'll have a lot of cool new things to kind of check out. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. Long-term wise, we want to try to do, we've kind of had to press pause on some stuff. So we had a relationship, with a local group here in town that was going to help with new naming rights to the Knapp Center. Things did not end up working out. We were going to take those dollars and apply it to, to put in the new bar and restaurant area in the Knapp Center. We're going to change the upper level seating. We've had to press pause on that until we can go find a new naming rights partner. So out there quietly talking about that, I guess it's not so quiet anymore. But that's the next part here, is that we need to raise those dollars to get that piece done in order for us to get those other parts, and get the Knapp Center to where I'd like to see it, because it's a great venue right now. I think it's better than it ever has been. There are still a few more things I like to see to really kind of cement it as one of the top basketball arenas for mid-major basketball.
And that goes on top of the bowling of the Knapp Center, the center hung video board, the sound system, which is really nice.
Yeah, the sports medicine area, which as you can see, it has gotten rave reviews from our student athletes. That's probably the one I'm most proud of. And then of course, everything that's going on next door with MediaCom Stadium. And we've got one small piece over there we're trying to finish up that will have a huge impact on all of our programs too. But there's still, constantly working at it, never taking a day off from that stuff.
Yeah, I think, and then some of the other follow-ups were outside of the Knapp Center. Yeah. What are some of the long-term goals, or what can you share about maybe Drake Stadium, MediaCom Stadium, and expanding the footprint there? So
MediaCom Stadium, the northwest building there. So we've shelled it out. We just got to get the insides of it done. So we've got $1,025,000 left to raise. When we get that raised, then that will create new locker rooms and coaches' offices for men's and women's soccer. That will then have a domino effect, because they'll then leave the field house, so we can think through that area a little bit differently. But back to the northwest building piece. So besides the locker rooms and coaches' offices for soccer, then we'll also have a meeting room space and a sports medicine area over in that building as well. So that will have a huge impact on DMPS and all the other events that we have going on in there, which you come down this weekend, you'll see Grandview football playing in there. They've had a great run in the playoffs here. And so we've seen, it's been a true community stadium, which I'm really proud of. And once we can get this last part done, it's already a gym. It's going to be fantastic. So that's one part. Drake Stadium turns 100 years old here coming up here in the next year. So, we are quietly putting some plans together for what that could look like. We need to do some things to, we need to replace the track that's going to come up here in summer of 27. So replace the track, replace the field, the football field. We need to do some things to kind of allow us to try to bring back some of the big events to Drake Stadium on the national track and field stage. So we need to probably add in another runway so we can win reverse, triple jump, and long jump. We need to kind of think through some other amenities that we need to add into Drake Stadium. We're not going to be adding a retractable roof anytime soon. So we're going to be kind of keeping things going in terms of just what the focus needs to be to make the relays as great as ever. There are, and then we have some other big dreams of what could happen in terms of, could we ever get to a point that we could turf a grass field and put in footings so we could put a bubble over it that would be next to the tennis center. Ever get to a point that we could identify what some type of a 2, 3, 4 lane jogging track could be somewhere around campus, so we could have a spot for athletes to warm up for Drake Relays and for other major events. We need to add another weight room. We need to remodel and get a bigger weight room added. We really need a academic services area. It's amazing how great our athletes perform in the classroom without having a study hall space that they can lean on during the day and in the evening. We're not Division I caliber in that space. That's an area that we have to get better in our student athlete. Our people are incredible, but our actual facilities aren't that great. And then those spaces we also could double potentially as meeting room spaces for our football team. They have to bounce around into classrooms, and so that's just not an ideal setup. So those are all things that are on the horizon. And then I think something else that could happen really quick is an improvement to our nutrition center. So that's something that for a couple $100,000 we would move and improve the nutrition center that we have in our current weight room. It's a space that we actually would trade spaces with our Sodexo group, take their offices and move it somewhere else into what is currently our nutrition area, and then take their offices, which is the old concession stand right across the hall from the basketball coach's offices, and convert that into a refueling station. That way then we punch a hole out of the back wall, which would then enter right into the weight room. So we'd have 2 ways to access that. Again, trying to identify things that actually go towards winning, and that make a difference in the experience here, that makes a difference in the student athlete experience. I think there are a few things that we can do in pretty short order that can impact that. And then some other things that we can do that'll take a little bit longer and take a few more dollars, but they're on our radar, and certainly something that I think we can get to.
Well, we've talked about, structures and how important those can be, but as you touched on, a lot of what happens around Drake is about the people, and hiring is one of the most important pieces of that, especially the head coaches. And we got a great question here from Greg, class of 1975. He said, in recent years, Drake has been blessed with great coaches that are able to move on to higher profile programs. What resources do you use to do such a good job of identifying the replacements in all of Drake's sports? So a lot there, but I think, what are some of the key resources that you use to find the right person for the job?
So I lean on people that in the industry. I think that the first thing that I'd say is going into any type of a head coach search, and really any search that we have here for any position in our department. The key is to start with the criteria that we need before we focus on the candidates. I fall in love with criteria and now with candidates. And so we'll go through, and, energy, passion, vision are 3 things that are going to be, at the top of every list for any position that we have here. But then we'll go through and establish, okay, what's the criteria that we need for this position at this time? So let's look like football for right now. So football's open. And so I met with the leadership team of our student athletes last Wednesday. So Coach Steps told the team at 2:00 that he was taking the job at UNI. On Wednesday, I talked to the team at the 2:00 meeting, and then told them I'd love to meet with individuals or a collective group to get an idea on what the traits and characteristics are that they want in their next head coach. And so we had a wonderful conversation and came out of there with a whole list of criteria. And then we take that, and we have a lot of great interest in that position. I know we'll talk about here later, but in any of those searches, we then take the criteria that is really important to us, and then we run candidates through that. And that will kind of narrow it down to that group that we want to talk to, and also ultimately find the best person who's going to be the best fit for Drake at this time and place. And nobody bats 1,000, but we've had pretty good success with that formula here. Not even of late, but in the entire time we've been here. And so those have been the resources, I guess, you go into that we've used to get us to the spot with, hiring some really good folks to join our team.
You laid out some of the criteria. Is there, I don't know, I know you spent some time where with the men's basketball hire, you basically locked yourself in your house for a week or whatever. Is there like a process that you use where kind of get you in the headspace to hire?
Yeah, I go off social media. I try to stay away from certain things that could, cloud my better judgment. And then I just try to just go back to, okay, who we are as a department, what are our core values, what has worked here. I think there's a lot to learning from history. And so, okay, what type of hires have worked at Drake? What type of hires have worked within our conference? And just trying to say, okay, are there similarities to the ones that have worked? Are there similarities to the ones that haven't worked? And trying to learn from that, so we don't, if something doesn't work, I don't want to repeat history. And but if something does work, okay, then let's see what could be there. I think we've found some formulas that have kind of worked well for us. And so that then I'll just try to go underground and stay away. And this night I've got Jay Brummel riding shotgun on the football one with me, and he's been wonderful to try to help line up conversations, and that's going really well. But it's trying to stay locked into what that is and understanding how important any of those head coach hires are for a program, because we've got student athletes who love Drake and in part came here for Drake, but a lot of our athletes come here because of their relationships with the head coaches. And so I've got a real duty to them to make sure that we find that next dynamic leader of any program. It is right now it's a football search, but we've done this for, I think I've hired 10 or 11 coaches since I've been here. And it's, each time you try to pour yourself into it, understanding that the impact it's going to have on the lives of our student athletes.
Let's go on to Drake and the greater landscape of the NCAA. A lot at play here with ruling in the House settlement and everything that goes into that. But I think the big question kind of to start here is from a fan is that is there anything that you can share when it comes to possible Missouri Valley Conference expansion, Missouri State leaving in the summer? And does Drake have any interest or sit anywhere specifically when it comes to realignment? I mean, that's a fun social media topic for fans.
Sure. So with respect to Missouri Valley Conference expansion, I believe that we're in a great spot as a league where we're at right now. We don't need to expand just to get back to 12. I have voiced this to our commissioner. I voiced it to our president, and we're in a great spot because President Martin is not only the chair of the presidents this year for the Valley, but he's also the chair of the expansion committee. And so the expansion committee has been around for forever. It's his turn to lead that. And so we're in a great spot where there's a lot of conversations that happen. And I appreciate Marty for how he's confided some stuff and asked me for some opinions on schools have expressed interest in joining the Valley. And there's been a significant number that see kind of what the Valley is and how they'd love to be part of it. I think that right now we're in a spot that we don't have to take anyone if we don't want to. Maybe there is a school or two out there that we would say, gosh, if they express interest, things could move pretty quickly. But for us to go from 11 to 12 or any number beyond that, we have to also accept the fact that that's decreasing the distribution of conference and NCAA dollars to each of the membership. And so that school better be adding something back, whether it's through, bringing fans to our basketball tournaments, adding teams that can get at large bids into the NCAA tournament for basketball, or be in a geographic area that provides cost savings from a travel standpoint. Being in markets where we have alumni or we can attract students certainly could have some benefit too. But I think we're in a position that we can be pretty selective and pretty choosy, and we don't have to go back to 12 just because it's a nice round number. In terms of kind of our prospect, we're very comfortable in the Valley. We've been here since the beginning, been here for almost the entire time, with a little break there following the Johnny Bright incident. But I think there's something to be said for us. Let's just continue to be really good in the space that we're at right now before we get any ideas of that there could be something else out there. I think that we should really embrace being the NBC defending all sports champion and try to find a way to repeat here. I think our teams are competing and getting access to NCAA tournaments. There's a lot to like about being in the Valley right now, and so I think that that's where we need to be now. There's a lot of shifting going on out there, and so you never rule out anything, and so you never say never. But I think the Valley has been great to Drake. I think Drake's been great for the Valley, and I think that's kind of where we find ourselves here, in the middle of December of 2024.
And there's lessons to be learned from other programs that have made the jump.
Yeah.
Grass isn't always
Correct.
greener.
Yes.
Some cases it makes sense. Others, like you said, it's good to be in the Valley. All right. How does the Drake Athletic Department plan to adapt to all the changes the NCAA has made when it comes to the NIL, the separation from power conferences to mid majors, and everything else that continues to roll downhill? I think mainly just I don't think you can go through everything that's happening right now, but maybe a word to the fan base about where we stand in the greater landscape.
Yeah, I think we're in as good a spot as we can be in, all things considered. I think that it's there already was separation happening between those Power 4 leagues and everybody else, and so maybe that gap is widening. But we're still, in a lot of cases, competing for a lot of the same kids that we were before, against some of the same schools that we were before. I still think that when it comes down to it, Drake has been really good at punching above its weight class, and we can look at a lot of different sports and how we do really well against a lot of other programs in our state and in our region or nationally. I think you look at how the men's basketball team played down in Charleston a couple weeks ago, placing teams that were spending $2 million more on their roster than what we were, but yet we win by double digits in each of those games. So I think that it's not just about dollars. I mean, you still have to have the right people. You got to have the right coaches, and they got to get the right athletes and put in the right systems. I think we have that. People, culture, resources. Those we always kind of talk about in terms of those are the keys to sustained excellence. And we've got great people. We've got tremendous culture, and we've got resources that are allowing us to do things that we haven't been able to do before. We'll have to continue to find ways to create new resources, and there's going to be help that we're going to ask for along the way. But we're in a great spot right now. And as the rules kind of change here, we'll continue to monitor them. I don't know if we're going to jump in right away with some of that stuff. I think we're going to kind of we'll observe it, but we know we have to get into that space here at some point. But I think the plan that we kind of are building right now makes sense for Drake. It allows us to have success in continue what we're doing in the short term, while also being responsible for understanding long term that we're going to have to jump in here and kind of what that's going to mean. So that's I like where we're at. I like our plan moving forward.
For people that are really apprised of what is transpiring in the NCAA right now, there are a lot of questions specifically when it comes to the Olympic sports. And one of the questions that we got, with NIL becoming quintessential to recruitment, not just in the main football, basketball, etc., but in Olympic sports as well. What's Drake's future goal in NIL and maybe just overall investment into Olympic sports?
So I think that the question kind of implies that, at least I'm inferring from the question, that there's a lot of NIL activity in the Olympic sports. And I think that may be the case in some places, but I think that could be changing here over the next year. And I think that we're going to see some of that curtail in a lot of resources at those top four schools, top Power Four schools, go to football and basketballs and maybe a couple other sports based on what is unique at that area. So I think that there's there's going to be some shifting. I think is actually going to happen with some of the Olympic sports. I think they're actually going to come back to the pack a little bit from where we and the majority of Division I membership are when it comes to Olympic sports. So I feel really good about kind of where we're at. I think it's going to impact. I look at what it could mean for our volleyball program and for our soccer programs. I think what it can mean for the Drake relays is I think we can get more of the top end university, those football brand name schools to come back, because I think you may see some adjustments made to some of the budgets, and maybe the ability for certain schools to travel to other meets that last weekend of April won't be there. So I think you may see more buses show up with track and field teams to the Drake relays. I just think that there are opportunities that will present themselves. I think that so that means that we can still stay committed to athletics. We're not making any adjustments on our end in terms of kind of how we view, Olympic sports from where we're at today with what the plans could be here moving forward. So I feel I like where we're at as a department, and the opportunity for us to provide, championship experiences for a lot of our student athletes.
We're here on the 515 podcast, a special edition for Ask the AD. Brian Hardin has graciously given his time here on a Monday night to join us here. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the Facebook or YouTube comment section. We're able to check those out, and we can bring those up on screen whenever we get a question that comes up. So interact with us, if you will. Love the additional interaction on social media. One question that comes up often is about adding sports, subtracting sports, whatever it may be. One question that we got is, when will Drake finally re-add wrestling to its athletic offering? I get this question a lot when I'm out and about and throughout the states. It shows the passion of that sport in our state.
I agree. I love it. It probably was one of the first questions that was asked to me when I was hired. It'll be 7 years. What's
in 2 days? Yeah,
today? It is. Yeah, 2 days. That'll be 7 years in 2 days. You know it better than I do. And I think that was probably one of the first questions that was asked to me when I started 7 years ago is, when are you going to bring back wrestling? Right now, we have no plans to add sports nor cut sports. We've got 18 sports with 370 student athletes from 31 states and 26 countries, most diverse subset of students on our campus. And we are doing all we can right now to provide the type of experiences that those athletes deserve. Don't want to do anything that could detract from that right now. So no plans to add wrestling. We know that if we did that, we need to also add women's wrestling or some other women's sport there from a Title IX standpoint. And so just kind of where we're at, don't see that on the horizon anytime soon. But I love the passion, and I've talked with Scott Casper about this. And I mean, there's a group that in this state and really around the country, but really in Iowa, that love wrestling and are so passionate about it. And we see it at a lot of high schools, see it at a lot of colleges around the area. Drake had that at one time. It's not happening today. I don't want to, again, like I said earlier, never say never. But it's not in our immediate plans. All
right. The next question that pops up is maybe what's on many folks' mind right now. Any update on the football coaching search?
Yeah. Oh,
break the news right now.
That's right. Our new head. No. Off to a great start. Really excited about kind of where things are at. I'll say a couple things. We're into the search. All day yesterday, today, we've been involved in interviews. So the interest is great. Anytime you go through a search, you learn a lot about the program, both externally in terms of what people think about it, but also you learn a lot about people inside the program. Externally, the interest is fantastic. And, he did the search 6 years ago that led to Todd Stepsis being hired. And Todd had the amazing last couple of years. They allowed him to get the job at Northern Iowa. And I know he'll do great things up there, except for when we play them in September of 2026. Put that on your calendar right now. The interest is great because they see what's happened here, and they want to be part of that winning tradition and culture that we have. They want to add to that. And that's exciting. And so we've had interest from every level that you would expect, from FBS, FCS, NAIA, Division II, Division III, high school. Everyone has reached out wanting to be part of this, to be the next dynamic leader of the Drake football program. And so that's been great to see. I'll say internally, though, I was so proud and impressed last week with the people in our program. So like I mentioned before, 2:00 last Tuesday, Todd told the team that he was leaving to take the UNI job. I was over there with them and talked to the team also and thanked Todd for what he had done, but also spoke to the team about how we're not done. Like there is more for this program to accomplish, and we will do it because of the people in this room. Drake football has never been about one person, not one coach, not one player. It's been a collective effort. And we have, in my time here, we've never had something like what we have right now with that program. And that was just confirmed by the following 24 hours, because that announcement happened at 2:00 on Tuesday, literally on the eve of signing day for college football, which was Wednesday of last week. And we had 34 kids that had been committed, and that could have rattled their comfort, and they made them a little, maybe more unsure of whether Drake was a spot for them. We had that night, I saw it in the hallway, we had guys on our team who were on cell phones talking to recruits, telling them that Drake's still the place for you. We had coaches the next morning in before 7 a.m. and coaches who were maybe leaving and working at Cedar Falls next season, but were in our offices talking to recruits, getting them to sign the paperwork to send in. That's just speaks to the character of the people in our program. I was so proud and impressed by what I witnessed from our student athletes and our coaches, to really try to see it through and get a lot of those kids. And we had a high percentage of those kids who ended up sending in paperwork to remain committed and because they want to be a Drake Bulldog. So that was a just incredible moment that really kind of stuck with me last week.
One of the follow-up questions that came in last week, when we put out the question to social media about this, Ask the AD, was how can we continue to build on that football success that you were just kind of pointing out? How can you build on attendance, especially now that the team is winning? That can help with gate revenue, concessions. They point out some things there, sponsorship from local businesses, etc. Essentially, how do we continue to build on what has happened the last 2 years here?
Yeah, I think it's just continuing to make people aware and just drive awareness to what's going on. We've got great football that gets played at Drake Stadium on Saturdays in the fall. And so the ability, I think more people came out, saw that. We had great crowds this year. We had more students attend our games through the first 2 or 3 games this year than all of last season. So we've got students coming out. There's more life in Drake Stadium. Now, Drake Stadium is a 14,000 seat stadium, and so there's plenty of seats to fill. But we had some amazing crowds this year that were really into it. Now there's still plenty of room on the bandwagon, people to jump on, and so we look forward to what that's going to be here in this next year. But we're making inroads in that way, and I think that we're moving in an encouraging direction, not where we'd all would want to be, but certainly better than where we have been in the past.
That concludes kind of the section of the questions that we had come in from fans on social media. So thanks everyone for participating in that. If you still have a question, drop it in the YouTube or Facebook comments. We'll try to get to it here in the next few minutes. I just had a couple questions to wrap up here on this Monday on the 515 podcast. Okay, so Brian, coming up on Wednesday, it's the holiday potluck. What they send out the sign up every year. Where are you at on that sign up list? What's your go-to potluck item?
Wow. So I have not signed up yet. I will be.
I haven't either.
I will be there. So I would say I'm more of a baker so I've got more of a sweet tooth. So it could be something, if I had time, I would make caramel brownies. I don't think I've got the time to kind of go through that whole mess. So that's a good question, but if I could do something more, I'll have to figure out something that fits someone's sweet tooth here. That I've kind of more in that space. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of some things I've brought in the past have been this is where if Kara's watching, she should be, I don't have my phone with me. I left it in the office, so you have to type it in here. But, but yeah, so I think that I'm kind of more on the dessert side of things.
No, that's good. We've had, people, the rush to sign up for napkins and plates, and
it's good that we're going to have that.
Yeah. So we've got that covered. So yeah, I need to figure something out as well, but we'll get there.
Yeah. We're missing our employee who used to bring in Casey's Pizza. So we'll have to figure out something, who's going to fill that void this year.
And it's as easy as it's ever been to just walk down the street.
Right.
Who's going to be that person to step up and bring the Casey's Pizza? All right. New Year's is upon us. And so, sometimes in our pregame radio conversations with Coach McCollum, I'll ask, do you have any relays resolution? That's me thinking.
There you go.
Marketing.
Get that plug out there. Blake will be happy.
Yeah. Make sure you sign up for the Drake Road Races.
That's right.
A special date, the Saturday before the Drake Relays this year. Okay. Back to what we were talking about, the New Year's resolution. For you, do you have any personal New Year's resolutions? Do you do them? First off, and then what would be a New Year's resolution 2025 for Drake Athletics?
Personally, I've got to shed some LBs. Like I got to find a way to be more consistent.
And that's why you're not bringing the sweets on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what it is. I started a workout plan in the fall there, and then got away from it. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I've got to. So that's something I'm going to be more consistent with here this next year. And then for 2025, like a Bulldog, like a Drake Athletics resolution, I just would challenge all of our fans out there to make it a resolution to get down to a Drake sporting event and to bring a neighbor or somebody with you. Bring someone with you that has not experienced Drake Athletics before, and give them a chance to meet our student athletes, meet our coaches, see how close you can sit. Not a whole lot of expense that goes into it. The time it takes to get down here, it's less than it does to get to Ames or to Iowa City. You're going to see a really high level play, regardless of whatever sport it is. And so come down, be part of us, help us fill up the Bulldog bandwagon. I hope that's what everyone can take away for a 2025 resolution around Drake Athletics.
That's perfect. And I know we are often preaching to the choir when it comes to conversations like this. We're on the Drake Athletics YouTube and Facebook pages. It's not to a greater broadcast, but this is something we can clip and send out, because not only are you seeing winning programs, you talked about the people that are part of Drake Athletics here, the facilities are first class, top notch. And then on top of that, after games, in the Knapp Center this winter, all those athletes will walk around in the stands, around the stands. Football does the same. You could be up close and personal to these athletes, and you just don't get that everywhere.
Yeah, I think that there's, unfortunately, because of the headlines that are out there with NIL and transfer portal, there are some folks who just don't feel great about where college athletics is these days. I'd say come down to Drake. You're going to see true student athletes. We win the right way. You're going to have an amazing time. We have got great role models out here. We got a lot of folks, a lot of Iowans that are here too. So if you want to support your own, get down here and cheer on your fellow Iowans here that are wearing the blue and white. There's never been a better time to be a Drake Bulldog. There's never been a better time to get down here and support your hometown team.
I know you're in the midst of a coaching hire right now, so you probably haven't done a ton of reflecting on the 7 years of being the director of athletics, but December 11th is the 7-year anniversary of you coming on board. And there's a reason why that Drake Athletics is in the position that we are right now. And it's all starts with your leadership, the partnership with Marty Martin across campus, and then it does filter throughout there. What are you most proud of in your time here at Drake?
Most proud. It's certainly not keeping my dark hair, because that went by the wayside a long time ago. Honestly, it's being able to, that we can have it all at Drake. We've got this amazing academic department, we've got amazing athletic department, and this amazing community. You don't have to choose one or the other. That the statistic last year of we became the first Missouri Valley Conference school to win the all sports trophy and do it in a year in which our student athletes had greater than a 3.5 GPA. That had never been done before in the 107-year history of the Missouri Valley Conference. We're not choosing to be only good in academics, to be only good in athletics, or to only provide a really good experience in our campus and in our community. You can have it all at Drake. And so we're not cutting corners. We're finding athletes who are accepting the challenges that are going to be put in front of them. You know, we don't have PE or basket weaving. We don't have majors we can hide people in. You're going to come here and you're going to be challenged. You're going to have to work your butt off. You're going to go out there and compete in a really competitive Division I conference. We're going to provide those type of experiences to you through the help of so many supporters and donors out there. You're going to make lifelong friends, people who are going to be in your wedding, people who are going to, you're going to, stay close to your coaches and to your teammates for decades down the road. You get to do it all in this amazing city that's going through this renaissance that has been for the last 20 plus years. One of the only cities in the Midwest that continues to add to its population. It's a great time to be at Drake. So proud of what we've been able to accomplish in those areas. So I think that's probably, looking back on the 7 years, is proving to folks that yes, you can have it all, and having it all does include having a top-notch athletic department.
There's no better way to put a bow on the first Ask the AD. Brian, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
We'll try to do this, once colder.
Maybe next time I could get some cool headphones or a backdrop. I look like I'm in a jail cell right now with the wall behind me.
Okay, so you would like a nicer studio, or
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, don't you know somebody who's connected to the budget or raising money around here?
No, yeah, I know. I dropped the ball on that. I hadn't got my Boz print hung up back there. I'll shift it next time for you.
we'll trade seats. I'll take yours with a great backdrop, and then you can kind of hang out here in Anamosa.
I have dropped the ball. Seriously, yeah. Thank you very much. We will spruce up your backdrop next time we're on here, no doubt about it. All right, that is Brian Hardin. My name is Michael Admire. Thanks to Ryan Gledhill for helping us out through. Hey, we had right off the bat, we had technical difficulties, but we had good people guiding us through this. So good stuff there. We will step aside. That is the 515 podcast. Next episode will be coming to you next Monday. We will talk to you then. It's at 5:15 on Monday. That's next 515 podcast. Talk to you next time.